Another day, another hoax. Another day, another clown show being put forward by Black Lives Matter activists. Another day should have been waited before all these protesters got out, got enraged about this supposed story of a 26-year-old pregnant, unarmed black woman being shot by the Kansas City police. Because obviously, based on the way I'm introing this, and based on the way I'm going to be talking about this throughout the course of this video, this case is yet another case where the facts didn't get out fast enough for the activists, or where the narrative was just too good to fact check. So the story we're talking about comes out of Kansas City, where the Kansas City police are allegedly loaded up with evil white racists who are all evil, white, and racist. And for no reason, for no purpose, the police in Kansas City decided to, I guess, stalk and shoot multiple times a woman called Leona Hale. Now, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this allegedly unwarranted hail of bullets. Yes, I made that pun. Yes, that's staying in the video. But this video is in fact sponsored, so before we get into this, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency and then talk about this on the other side. Let's talk about investment paralysis. Recently, a bunch of so-called experts were all predicting that Bitcoin would drop to $10,000, wiping out a ton of people. What ended up happening? When it dropped to $29,000, a bunch of institutional investors got on board and they pushed it back up to $31K. Talk is cheap, and that's what a lot of these so-called experts and pundits are doing, just giving you cheap talk. What you should do is follow the money. Follow the institutional investors. Follow the billionaires. They got rich for a reason, and what their strategy appears to be when it comes to Bitcoin and other crypto coins is buying the dip. If you're interested in investing in crypto, I hope you'll consider My Digital Money. You can visit them at mydigitalmoney.com, or you could talk to their US-based customer support at 833-636-2008. That's 833-636-2008. Call them, go on their website, and learn about your options today. The lies by Black Lives Matter at this point are legendary, and even when they're debunked, unfortunately, due to the fact that they permeate throughout our society, throughout our culture, they infuse themselves in the zeitgeist of our nation, they don't often get debunked in the hearts and minds of the activists and of the general population. How many people, despite the multiple times that I've debunked the Michael Brown case on this channel for you, still believe that Michael Brown was completely innocent and was shot while he had his hands up? Well, we have another case of this, and this one involves Fiona Hale, who apparently was pregnant and was just shot unarmed completely for no reason, stopped by the cops for absolutely no reason, while she put her hands up in surrender. It's just when black people have their hands up, evil white racist cops just happen to start firing upon them, even though there's no danger, and the fact that they're pregnant also makes the cops very, very angry and very, very racist, thus firing upon them because of their anger and because of their racism. Now, of course, this story on its own doesn't pass the smell test. Of course, this story should raise eyebrows amongst thinking people in the United States of America. But think about it. If you're under the impression that 18-year-old Michael Brown was out spreading the word of Christ,
because Michael was a big guy, but he was a kind, gentle soul. And before he left this earth, the day that he was killed, he was out spreading the word of Jesus Christ. Because Michael was a big guy, but he was a kind, gentle soul. And before he left this earth, the day that he was killed, he was out spreading the word of Jesus Christ.
When all of a sudden, evil white racist Darren Wilson just shot him when he had his hands up, presumably for no reason, he just had his hands up, he wasn't even committing a crime, then you're likely to believe this. If you're one of these people who thinks that Breonna Taylor, for no reason, the cops broke into her house, even though it was the wrong house, and they shot her in her bed, and there was no provocation at all whatsoever, no boyfriend named Kenneth Walker shooting at the cops, wounding him in his femoral artery, and she died in the hallway, not in her bed, then you are likely to believe this. If you have this warped view of police officers that is not rooted in facts, then you're primed and ready to believe any crazy concocted story that has no factual basis behind it, and you're ready to believe it at the drop of a hat. So of course, protesters came out in force. Black Lives Matter released statements. You had people screaming into megaphones incoherently because, of course, this always happens to black people.
Traumatized! We are tired of feeling like our deaths don't matter, our pain don't matter, our tears don't matter, our struggles don't matter. They do
gosh, our society's so racist, and oh my god, it always happens to black women, even though statistically women's interactions with the police are incredibly rare. And I have to give credit where credit is due. First and foremost, my brother sent me this video that we're going to be talking about today, but it's a local news segment, and the local news segment has no interest in the BLM narrative. The local news segment wrecks Black Lives Matter's crap live on air, and then goes out to the protest and shames people directly to their face, making them look like the utter buffoons that they actually are.
Tonight is, do you see the gun in this woman's hand?
Here's how this news segment starts. Now, I often criticize media for being liars, for being cowardly, for having no balls at all, for being pathetic, but in reality, this was ballsy, this was truthful, and this was absolutely amazing. This is a local news segment. These people have no budget. These people are often lame. They're going to do 12 segments about dog walkers throughout the course of this local news broadcast, but the first thing they do when they open up this segment is show you a picture of the person with the gun, and then they say the dumbest question, the most rhetorical question ever to be put forward, because the most obvious thing about this photo is the fact that she has a gun in her hand, which is, do you see this gun? And the implication of that question, do you see this gun, is, do you see this gun, you dumb idiots who prejudge this case, who are out in the streets like the morons that you actually are. Did you notice this? Are you curious about this? Did you want to wait for this clip of body cam footage before you got out to protest? That is the implication of this local news segment. Credit where credit is due, because the whole staff has such contempt for BLM. They have such contempt for rioting and nonsense, possibly because Kansas City, even though I didn't hear specific reports related to this, had to deal with the rioting and nonsense last year or in 2020 due to the George Floyd thing. So they seem fed up. I appreciate it. I appreciate the no F's given attitude of this opening segment, which is why we're going to rely very heavily on their reporting and laugh at everything that is put forward by BLM, especially when the activists are confronted with the evidence.
She's facing 3 charges now after prosecutor's office says that she pointed it towards 2 Kansas City, Missouri police officers. This picture came out today after a video of the aftermath of that shooting went viral. I'm Kevin Barry.
I'm Lauren Halifax.
Again, this is what I like to see in objective news coverage. They talked about the video about the shooting and how that video was the aftermath. That was the end of the story, and they emphasize this. Then they cut to the intro where he says, I'm Barry whatever, and then Lauren over here is Lauren Halifax, because they're about to drop Halifax on you guys right now. Yes, I'm making puns like crazy throughout the course of this video. You're gonna have to deal with it, but trust me, it's worth it just because of how ridiculous this case gets.
The encounter with police started after that woman, 26-year-old Leona Hale, and a man allegedly held somebody at gunpoint in a carjacking in KCK.
So one of the things I don't appreciate about this video, one of the things that I'm not super hyped on, despite the fact that it is incredibly factually sound and it's refreshing to see this being done by a news organization that's definitely connected to some kind of corporation, because all the corporations seem to be on the wrong side of this issue, is the fact that they don't have any dramatic tension. No sense of build-up for you guys out there in the audience. They're just trying to deliver you the news. But obviously, you heard it yourselves. Obviously, you have ears. Otherwise, I feel bad for you. Maybe you're watching this. Maybe the subtitles, you subtitle saw it yourself. And obviously, you have eyes. Oh, now I feel bad because I'm going after people with eyes. Needless to say, the woman at the center of this shooting, the woman who actually survived this shooting, if you're worried about her health, she's in the hospital recovering, was carjacking somebody prior to the shooting. The reason the police were involved in this situation was not because their evil, white, racist blood boiled at the sight of a black woman who was pregnant, because we all know white people have never seen that before. It was because they committed an armed carjacking in Kansas City, and the police respond to armed carjackings. I know this might be shocking if you live in a lefty city where they just let armed carjackers go until they murder somebody, like in my city, but in this city, Kansas City, they actually go after armed carjackers. So when they pulled them over, the man fled. Honorable guy. Remember all that stuff about how she was pregnant. And then Hale, who allegedly is pregnant, even though that is not verified, also fled, and she fled significantly slower, and she had a gun in her hand, as seen in this snippet from the body cam footage. Now, to be clear, I want to make my position obvious for all you out there on the internet.com. I wish the police would just release the footage. Now, I understand it could be graphic, somebody gets shot during the course of the footage, but you blur out that part, but at least show us right before the encounter so we can see the same gun that's in hand in this still in the video, because the police are alleging that she was pointing the gun at officers when she was running away from them. And the fact that they have this one still, which they probably released because it's the clearest still, is good. It is something to quash some of the narrative, but overall, you should just release the footage. I understand there's local ordinances and laws, etc., but they seem to be violating those local ordinances, laws, etc. by showing you this still image, and I think transparency is key. And all these lefties, by the way, who advocated for body cams, all these lefties who said that we needed to see all the corruption by the police, actually did the police the greatest solid ever of all time. And the police unions were against it, because 9 times out of 10, when you look at the body cam footage, 9 times out of 10, when this video comes out, it shows that the left's narrative is wrong and that the police actually acted well in this situation. And it appears this woman, who was an armed carjacker, allegedly, she hasn't been convicted yet, and had a gun on her, again, according to the photo, but also allegedly, she hasn't been convicted yet, was running away from the police and did have the gun in hand, so stands to reason that this dangerous person who committed a violent felony, aka the armed carjacking, might be a danger to the officers. I would not be surprised if she was pointing the gun at the cops, and if she is in fact pregnant, which again is not verified, it seems to be just put out there by the left with nothing to back it up, then that is on her, because who carjacks somebody while they're pregnant? I don't care if your man is super into carjacking and you haven't had a date night in a while, this is a terrible plan, and what a stand-up guy he is, because he ran away from the cops.
These court documents show a differing account than what many believed to be the case. The Jackson County Prosecutor's Office alleges not only did Hale point her gun at officers, she was, quote, tracking officers as she continues south through the grassed area with that same gun. Body cam footage from a separate angle, according to the allegations in these newly released documents, say Hale had a firearm in her right hand pointed in the direction of the officers as she's running away from them.
Supposedly the cops are these evil bad racists who just hate pregnant women when they're black, yet this is a guy who left his pregnant black person that he knew in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if they were seeing each other, but they were at least committing crimes together, to the cops because he didn't care about her. No criticism of him, no criticism of his behavior, because honestly, the way the left frames this story, you wouldn't even know that this person was actively carjacking somebody. And she was probably carjacking somebody who happened to be black. Obviously, started off in a black neighborhood, would make all the sense in the world. She pointed a gun at him, easily could have killed him, but of course, she's the victim because we've only seen the aftermath of the video. And remember all these other fake cases that we don't know are fake cases because we're putting ourselves in the position of an ignorant lefty. So yeah, Hale runs away. She's in a grassy area where visibility is bad. According to the body cam footage, it appears as she's running away, she's holding the gun behind her and tracking the officer's movement or tracking sound, putting a lot of people at danger because you could just hear something that wasn't even an officer, fire off a shot, and that can go into anybody's home, anybody nearby, because this is the kind of person that she is. So she ended up getting shot for her troubles, which is what happens when you point a gun at cops and you're threatening cops and you've already proven yourself to be a violent criminal and you're running away from those cops after committing a violent crime. And everybody's surprised that this happened because all of a sudden she's such a bad person. Wow, they just shot her in the grass, which, by the way, perfect scenario to pick up the story from, because if the gun was in hand, it could have easily been dropped in the grass at that moment or dropped at the moment of shooting. So therefore, all the people who are filming the aftermath wouldn't have any perception of the gun. So it's not like they're going to accidentally show us the truth of the matter just by them being there. It's the perfect case, or at least the perfect location, for this concoction of a racist narrative to start out.
Despite this new information,
our community is hurt. We are hurting. We are traumatized.
So, of course, that's the woman that I showed you earlier on that's freaking out, spazzing out. It seems like she's not even being caught on that megaphone. You gotta put batteries in that, people. But she is loud enough that that is not necessary. And, of course, the broadcaster is talking about how, oh, even though the facts are out, these people are not moved by it because this guy actually went around and showed people the evidence to see their responses. But what was great about this is that some of the people that were out there, he asked their opinion and then showed them the evidence for embarrassment's sake, and it is just glorious. Take a look at this guy.
many in support of the 26-year-old still found themselves backing her.
They're gunning down people who aren't threats down the street.
So again, that's the narrative, that's the myth, that's the reason why this guy is out here. The police are just killing people who aren't even threats, who pose no threat to the officers due to the color of their skin, and he's sick of it and he's standing up. And to be clear, to be fair to this person, if I was this ignorant, if I didn't know the situation and I felt like there was this great injustice going on and it came to my community, I would likely be out there in the streets as well. Now, normally I wait for the facts, and that is something that I do because I'm a seasoned veteran when it comes to the lies of Black Lives Matter, the lies about the police, and the lies of the left. But I understand his position in this moment, especially if he has children and now it's a girl. What if he has a daughter? This is something that you would be worried about. You see time and time again that the polling shows us that black people are not in favor of defunding the police, but they are in favor of a more community-oriented approach to policing, and this guy is representative of that. But let's see how he responds when he actually sees the image of her holding the gun.
Until we were able to show them exactly what police and prosecutors say happened.
I see. How come the person yesterday said she didn't have a gun?
Just look at his face. They say a picture can tell 1,000 words, but in reality, pictures lie all the time, except for that picture with her holding the gun, although there are accusations and allegations around that we'll get into later. But just look at his face. Look at the confusion, look at the processing, look at the moment that he realized that he wasted a completely perfectly fine Saturday afternoon coming out to protest for this carjacker who was armed and he didn't know anything about it, and everybody around him is either willfully ignorant or just jump the gun because they want to be a part of a movement or because they have legitimate concern that is backed up only by their own ignorance. Look at his face. It is all said there. I don't even need to play any of his audio, but I'm definitely going to do that because his audio is even more hilarious than his face.
I see. How come the person yesterday said she didn't have a gun?
So we're going to break this down in every way humanly possible until you are absolutely bored with it. First and foremost, hear the tone in his voice. Hear how it cracks at the moment that he is confronted with actual information. Look at his body language. It is very defensive. It is very confused. He's not making eye contact anymore because he is stunned in every possible way with what he was shown. But also, listen to what he just said. Listen to his brain processing the evidence being put forward right now in this moment.
They're gunning down people who aren't threats down the street.
Here's the confidence before, and here's his statement after.
I see. How come the person yesterday said she didn't have a gun?
How come the person yesterday said she didn't have a gun? This is what we call, and I'm going to break this down for you. I know it's a very complicated phrase. It's a very complicated concept to understand. Lying. The person who told you she didn't have a gun was lying. The person who said that the cops just stalked this woman for no reason whatsoever and shot her because she's pregnant and the cops are racist and they didn't like her and they pulled her over for no reason is a liar. That's why they did that. This whole narrative about her being pulled over for no reason at all is nonsensical. The cops do pull people over, by the way, sometimes for no reason. They'll wait for you to commit a violation because they have a suspicion. It does happen. I'm against it. I feel your pain on that. Let my heart go out to you right there in that moment. It's happened to me and I don't like it. But this person was carjacking, and if you're going to make the assertion that this person was pulled over for no reason, was chased for no reason, ran for an undisclosed reason that doesn't make any sense at all, and was unarmed and shot for no reason, then you should have some basis of fact for those assertions. And I love the cut back to the local news person in editing, just savaging his point that he made about why did the person yesterday, the random race provocateur who's trying to raise money off of racism, who's trying to gin up hysteria, say the non-truth that is contradicted by the photo evidence. I don't understand this. I thought she was an innocent mother on her way to seek out where she was going to get her prenatal vitamins when all of a sudden the cops showed up at the pharmacy where she was getting her prenatal vitamins and pulled a gun on her and shot her multiple times and then dragged her out into the grass and then said, whatever, we bad people, we bad cops, ain't cops racist?
How come the person yesterday said she didn't have a gun?
A claim that was never backed by evidence and prosecutors say helped fuel false narratives around the case. However, they say this isn't enough.
If I want to see the body cam footage right now.
So again, after he rebounds, you can hear in the audio, unfortunately they don't show us his face in this moment, that he wants to see the body cam footage right now. Again, back to demands, back to indignation, and on this point, at this moment, I actually agree with him. I understand what it's like to be confronted with evidence that conflicts with your worldview, and sometimes you're not ready for it, but this is not a bad ask. This is not an unruly demand to see the body cam footage. Maybe you should wait until the footage comes out before you freak out, but overall, I'm actually on board with this claim. That's why I said it earlier on. Release the footage, let's see what's going on, let's remove all ambiguity from this situation, because we all likely understand how this went out. Now, of course, this local broadcast takes a shot at the narrative that she was even pregnant in the first place, and here it is.
Some say she was pregnant, something Fox 4 is still working to verify.
Now, credit where credit is due to Fox 4 for the utter contempt that they showed the people out there protesting based on their own ignorance. And the reason that they also deserve credit is because the facts are being brought to the table quickly, which actually does tend to get rid of these narratives. Because if you let it linger, if you let it become a Breonna Taylor situation or a Michael Brown situation where the facts come out months later or a year later, then the myth is going to be repeated enough times that it's going to stick with us. So these facts came out as quick as possible, and you would think that would kill the narrative. But of course, it's not going to kill the narrative, because now Black Lives Matter activists who should be embarrassed, who should be ashamed of themselves, who are already raising money off of this, are saying that the image from the body cam that shows her with a gun in her hand is photoshopped.
That photo is exactly what it is. It's an image pulled from the body cam. That's all it is.
The Jackson County Prosecutor's Office says it has nothing to hide after an officer-involved shooting last week. Tonight, it is rejecting allegations a police body cam picture is fake.
So not only is the cop doing something wrong and shooting this girl who survived, by the way, but the cops are actually hiring Photoshop technicians to Photoshop guns into their hands to prove that they're wrong, and this is going to be debunked by the full body cam footage or whatever. And I guess the prosecutor's in on it, because when you get proven wrong, when you get proven to be a fool, like all these Black Lives Matter activists have been proven to be fools who jumped on this case, your next thing is to allege a grand conspiracy of evil white racists that are all teaming up to get around this shooting that, by the way, even if she didn't have a gun on her, may have been justified just by the fact that she was a carjacking suspect that was running in the grass. One of these people is likely armed, and you can't really see if there's a gun or not. So you don't even need the gun to make this defensible for the police. So the fact that the gun exists in there isn't really evidence, or isn't really crucial evidence. It's crucial for the public consciousness. It's crucial for the narrative to be destroyed, but it's not really necessary to justify the shooting when this woman is running away, waving her arms all frantically, and you have no idea what's going on in the grassy area that she was in after she is fleeing the scene or fleeing arrest from suspicion of being involved in an armed carjacking. So it wouldn't even be necessary for the prosecution to do this, yet this is the allegation currently right now.
We don't operate in a vacuum. We have to show our evidence to the court. We have to present our evidence to the defense attorney. We have to present our evidence to the defendant.
The Jackson County Prosecutor's Office says the photo it released Wednesday is real. It's a still picture of Leona Hale's encounter with KCPD officers Friday night. Some people claim the picture is doctored and say the 26-year-old was unarmed when she was shot. But court records say officers shot Hale because she pointed a gun at them and didn't listen to verbal commands. That's why the county prosecutor said it released this picture and showed the body cam video to community stakeholders.
We needed to convince the community that we were presenting them an honest picture.
But I think any claim that's suggesting that both the prosecutor, who has indicted police in the past, obtained convictions, the police department, the highway patrol, the mayor, anybody else who's seen this video is lying, is ridiculous.
So as you can hear for yourself from the prosecutor, you can't really release the footage in this jurisdiction until it is turned over to the defendant and defense counsel. Obviously, this woman is recovering in the hospital, so they can only show it to key community leaders or show it in private settings so people can get the word out. The allegations that this is photoshopped is absurd in every possible way, and credit where credit is due to all of the people who are coming out and pointing out that Black Lives Matter, the organization, is trying to take advantage of this situation, and they're concocting all these conspiracy theories, especially absurd when you factor in that these conspiracy theories are about a prosecutor who in the past has prosecuted officers for bad behavior. So all of this is rooted in nonsense, and it's absurd in every possible way, and I love the way that Fox 4 just goes out, finds the people, and the people are like, no, these activists are idiots. They're ridiculous. We show this to the actual community leaders because these people don't represent our community, and they're just trying to latch onto everything because they've already kind of, set up their fundraising operation for the innocent Miss Hale. No, it's absurd, and I'm glad to see that the narrative is being beat back locally, but as we've seen multiple different times on this channel, sometimes a narrative can be beat back locally. Everybody in the area could know it's false. Everybody in the area could know that the person at the center of it was up to no good, but nationally, the national narrative just takes over. Perfect example of this is Jacob Blake. Everybody knows Jacob Blake is a bad guy in that area, but nationally, he's still getting very nice interviews, fluff pieces, etc., and was paid out a bunch of money. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think the police photoshopped this photo, this bad looking photo from body cam footage, in order to frame Hale, and the mayor and the prosecutor and everybody involved are all evil white racists, even these black people that are featured throughout this video, and they just wanted to go after this poor girl because she was pregnant, and these racists hate pregnant black women. Let me know if that's what you actually believe. Please, I would love to read your theory on how this is logical down in the comments below. If you like this video, show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links. This has been me talking about another absurd case. Till next time.